It's time for some collective wisdom, a podcast advancing the cannabis revolution, one conversation at a time. We all benefit from sharing knowledge and experiences. So if you want to learn about the business of cannabis from those in the trenches, you've come to the right place. Here's your host, Lisa Tollner, co-founder of SensiChew.
Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Chris Lane, who is the CMO for San Jose's Airfilled supply company. And some really interesting things are happening around the industry, as you can imagine, with the craziness around COVID-19. And what they've really experienced is this cannabis's Amazon Prime moment? And when we think about that, it is really telling, and it's really an epic moment for our industry with all the challenges we're coming up against with compliance, banking, and so forth. Now we've got a virus to deal with. And how are dispensaries today going to step up and make those adjustments and get much needed cannabis to their consumers? And also, as these Californians gather to prepare for shelter in place and also to practice social distancing, a lot of new dynamics that are setting a whole new precedent for our industry and how dispensaries are going to support their consumers. So with that, I would like to welcome Chris Lane to our show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Airfilled Supply Company is based in San Jose. You're one of the most visited dispensaries in California. Some 1,500 consumers a day grace your doors. And then something happened. Tell us a little bit about this Amazon Prime moment that has really pushed you into this whole new way of servicing customers.
Yeah, so exactly to your point, as everything has evolved with this situation around COVID-19, at Airfilled, we are honored to have a large volume that's coming in every day. As you mentioned, 1,500 people plus a day. Really, about a week ago is when we started seeing a dramatic uptick. One, we were starting to put into place measures to work with our consumers in a more conscious way for the present situation in terms of social distancing, cleaning, sanitation, all those things, really doubling, tripling down on those considerations. And then ultimately, as we started to see what was coming down the pike, we made a proactive decision to really start encouraging delivery. We have at Airfilled, we're a vertically integrated dispensary, everything from cultivation to retail, to a variety of different kinds of fulfillment methods, whether that's in-store, e-commerce, online ordering and pickup, or delivery, where we operate a fleet of Teslas that are working all across the Bay Area to deliver cannabis to our consumers, as well as in-store kiosks that are coming at some point when we get through some of this stuff. We made the conscious decision to really kind of encourage people to move to delivery. And on that day, we saw a 100% increase in our delivery orders that happened.
Wow.
We had almost 10,000 people click on an SMS message that we sent 2 days ago. And I think it was because it was simple, it was clear, it offered them a point of action at an uncertain time.
Well, they want something to click on. And right now there is a vortex happening right now, and that everyone's feeling a little vulnerable, right? Yeah. There's a lot of uncertainty, and you gave them something that they were really interested in this moment of uncertainty. And that's powerful because you knew how to capitalize on it in the first place.
Yeah, and that was a very telltale sign. And it really sort of triggered a moment with us of realizing that cannabis, which is often operated very much off of the brick and mortar model, with augmented through e-commerce and delivery, that these channels we had already scaled, that we were continuing to see good traction on and good month-over-month growth, they were at their time to shine. And so that's when we made the conscious decision that we know this is the better thing. It offers all of the solutions that we need for the current environment. And more importantly, in reality, it meets the current consumers' purchasing habits in a lot better way. So what we took the decision to do on the back of all of the technology stack we had built was figure out how we combine that human interaction with that technology opportunity to scale. And since then, we've doubled our delivery capacity. We actually, just as of today, shifted for the time being completely online only pickups and delivery. So we've actually turned our retail space into a 5,000 square foot fulfillment center for all of our online order pickups and delivery fulfillment. And we're really seeing record numbers day over day as we continue to evolve and figure out how we work in this environment with respecting and proactively engaging around social distancing and health and safety best practices while continuing to get the essential items to our community.
Well, this has to be no small task. And I can only imagine once you made the decision, okay, we're going to do this, then some key business decisions, logistics considerations, a lot of things came into play. Can you tell us what went into that?
Yeah, it really all began with the foreshadowing that started around Thursday and Friday. We started seeing the numbers, we started seeing the trends, we started to see the response to our actions. And then on Monday, when the announcement came for the impending shelter in place, at Airfilled, we actually proactively made the decision to close for the afternoon. We did that, one, to prepare for how we were going to deal with the situation, but to be honest, more importantly, to give our employees time to work on their personal situations, make sure that everyone had the time to deal with anything they needed, to get to anywhere they needed for that afternoon and that evening, to make sure they were comfortable. And it started from there. At Airfilled, we're very proud that we start from a community base, and that begins with our staff at first. And so, we put into place measures around at-will employment to make sure that people felt comfortable coming into work. We actually at that moment made the proactive decision, and our CEO, Mark Matlich, made the decision that we wanted to give employees 1 week of additional pay just proactively. One of the first things that comes to mind whenever there's a situation like this is your personal safety and your finances and everything involved. And so we wanted to do something that helped ease those fears. Once we had worked through that community and staffing-based model of it, then it was about approaching, how do we do this? How do we continue to serve our community in the way that they need, and also continue to successfully operate as a business? And that's when we started to structure around the idea of online order pickups and delivery really being a key focus. It kind of hits on two sides. On the retail side, how do we pull that off logistically? How do we do this in an effective way where we can get as many people as efficiently in and out in a way that they feel comfortable, that they feel safe and secure as possible? And then on the marketing side, on the comm side of the world, how do we communicate this out to our community? How do we make sure that people understand how we're approaching the situation? What are the key facts that they should know? And ultimately, how can they efficiently and effectively and safely get the cannabis that they are looking for at this time?
Now, with the communication, I've seen some of the emails that have gone out from Airfilled. Are you looking at all your channels? So you're using your website as a more valuable communication tool besides just for ordering. So any way that a consumer might be trying to get in touch with the company to understand what's going on, what's changed, how do I order, what's my pickup options? So using every tool available.
Yeah, at Airfilled, we have a completely integrated marketing stack that we've built out aggressively over the last 2 or 3 years, but especially over the last year, so that every communication touchpoint and engagement touchpoint that we have with a potential current or former customer, we can tie together, we can make sure that data is flowing to each other, and ultimately we can analyze the success of it and learn from it for the next time. So we use a Salesforce marketing stack on that side for marketing automation. So that's everything from our emails to our SMS messages to our online site chat. So it happens there. It also happens at the top line communication, on the website, in any of our in-store signage you might see if you happen to be in the store, any of our social content that we're putting out across various different channels. Our Instagram community is very engaged and large, and has been a great place for us to really center conversation during this time. There's a lot of different cannabis consumers in the world. There's a lot of different cannabis consumers at Airfilled, and we want to make sure that we're not forgetting about any of them. So when we take the message, we make sure we take it to every channel and we adapt it as appropriate.
And what would you say has been the most challenging aspect of all of this? I mean, you've obviously been working on this and working toward this for some time, but these final changes happened within a very short period of time. March 12th was just last Thursday. So in the course of 5 days, if you count Monday, when the final decision was made, what were some of the challenges you had to face on?
We are fortunate in the fact that we've been very proactive in scaling the way that we build our business and being early adopters in e-commerce, early adopters in integrated delivery and all those kind of things. So I think we're in a good position to deal with it, but it was all about what can we do at first? And then more importantly, how should we do it? When we looked at everything that was happening, and it's such a rapidly evolving, fluid situation, we knew that we needed to make sure people felt comfortable, right? First of all, that we were adhering to all the regulations that we always had and anything new that could potentially be coming down the line. Then most importantly, that people felt comfortable, that people felt it was a convenient solution. In parallel, that our staff felt comfortable and that they were able to operate successfully in that environment. and that we as a business were able to make sure that we could still offer our standard of expectations, that Airfilled is built on a boutique retail environment where you get great consultation, where you have a more branded high-end experience where anyone can feel comfortable, whether you're a Canna curious user that's just coming in for the first time to learn about something, or whether you've been around for as long as you could be around. We like to cater to all those environments. And so we've had to make sure that we've built out those processes in this evolution to digital that we're seeing right now. But we're going to see the opportunity for the people that are ready to thrive and are ready to really adapt to the modern consumer's needs, which ultimately shelter in place, the on-demand economy still exists, and shelter in place doesn't totally change that. So I think we'll see some really exciting stuff happening innovation-wise, even in challenging times.
Well, the challenging times are forcing us out of our habits and our comfort zone. And I often feel when I walk into dispensaries all over California that, and as beautiful as many of them are, I can't help but think that it feels a little old school because it was missing that technology piece, the convenient factor of being able to order and get anything you want, anytime you want. And this gets us closer to the modern paradigm, to the modern way that we've all become used to shopping for everything else but cannabis. So it's definitely an important trend that we're getting thrust into it, but that's okay because it needs to happen. The other aspect of this is at some level, there's an environmental component too. Less people are going to need to be driving to make their purchases, especially once they figure out what they like. I think that it's genius what you're doing with the online live e-bud tender because the consultative selling piece is what people love about the cannabis retail experience. That's the part that they can't get otherwise, but you're making that possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we first approached the concept of what does the next generation of our technology stack look like, it really spun from that core of what's the best part about the cannabis retail experience and what's the best part of every other retail experience that we're not seeing in cannabis, and how do we fit those two together? It really came down to, as much of a cliche as it is, it came down to data in a lot of ways. We looked at our data and we just have massive volumes of information flowing. But ultimately, that data is only as valuable as you're able to do something with it. So we started to map it out. And literally it started as sketches on paper and then bigger pieces of paper and then whiteboards and then more whiteboards and then all sorts of things. But ultimately, we got to a point of understanding all the data that's flowing in and thinking about how can we do the things, how can we learn best practices from previous jobs that I've worked at and other people in the company that, we've got fantastic supply chain and technology managers that are working at Airfilled that really are thinking about it in these same kind of ways of what is the future consumer experience looking like. And then we sat down and sketched it out and then tried to find solutions that allowed us to do it. But one of the huge pieces that we were focused on was we can't create more data that's siloed away from each other. That's a huge industry challenge that cannabis has, is there's data sitting in a point of sale system. There's data sitting in an email system, an SMS system. Cannabis collects a lot of data about people just by nature of regulation. You have to scan a license. That's an incredible amount of data just to start with.
That's a good point.
We know a ton more than a lot of other industries do before someone even walks in the door. And once they walk in the door, we know everything about them in a good way, in a respectful way.
Sure.
But, where we can leverage that to enhance their experience. And so we started to build a stack. And obviously, Salesforce has become an incredible partner for us in building a completely integrated stack across all that data. All of our data flows securely into a central hub where we can analyze it and we can take action in a way that allows us to better support our community. We can tell people that like a certain product what tens of thousands of other people also like that product. We can tell people who haven't come in a while but used to like these products what kind of new products they might like. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways we can do it from a transactional side, but ultimately also, for us, we're very passionate that we're a lifestyle business that happens to sell cannabis. We happen to be a retail brand. So we love looking at the lifestyle side of the data, connecting those points together, and then finding ways to authentically and interestingly surface that information to our community. So in this time of sort of rapid change and rapid evolution, we're actually like really excited to be able to leverage some of these things in more powerful ways, because ultimately all we're doing is learning more about our community and now being able to offer them even more context. So that's pretty exciting.
Oh, no question.
Interesting time.
I'm fascinated that you've utilizing Salesforce. And back in my tech days, I had many, many clients. I mean, they were the, sort of the go-to customizable solution for integrating sales and marketing. And they still are a powerhouse force, but their ability to tailor and each business's data demands is what is the magic behind Salesforce. And that kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight. So clearly you've been working on that integration and customization for some time.
Yeah, it's a large lift, but it's a lift that we see a daily benefit from in one-to-one interaction, in retail marketing execution, and ultimately in brand building. For Airfilled, we believe very strong in the brand that we have built and continue to build, right? I mean, brands are fluid things that never get completed, but it allows us a constant feedback check to be able to dive in and see what people care about, see what they're interested in. We constantly are doing touch points with our community, whether that's community surveys or proactive brand campaigns that allow us to engage with people and get data out of that. But, having these systems in place allows us to have a source of truth that we can go back to. And, even the best source of data truth is often a good hypothesis, but I'm a lot comfortable making large decisions off of a data-backed hypothesis than just hoping we get the answer right. And that's what this allows us in a lot of ways is, as we move forward and as cannabis businesses in general move forward, our ability to truly understand what people want allows us to serve them better, which allows our businesses to grow and allows everyone to be happier. So it's a worthwhile investment always, but you have to be willing to do it.
Now, if you were going to give one piece of advice to a dispensary who's looking to embark on the area of data, is there one piece of advice you could give?
I think if there is one piece, is this idea of figuring out your combination of data and art and where that comes together. Certainly Airfilled, we have larger data systems. It's a family-run, sole owner company that started in 2010 with, a couple of employees, a dream and confidence that they knew how to do it right. But it always came from a core place of knowing why you exist. I always bring it back to that whenever it comes down to anything. If you do not, as a business, truly understand why you exist, then what you're doing is just selling products. There's an amazing book by a friend of mine called The Soulful Art of Persuasion, which is by Jason Harris, who's the CEO of Mechanism, which is an absolutely fantastic creative agency. And, it's that combination of what makes a world an authentic influencer now. And that applies to an individual or a business. But it always comes down to the core. Why you exist, why you are there, what you are actually doing. You're serving a community, you're providing a service, you're finding these things. So figure out how you can take that mission that you have and find a little bit of data or a lot of data, whatever you get your hands on it, figure out a way to manipulate it in a way that you can understand it, and then understand the true passion and the art and the science side of it. If there is any advice I'll ever give someone, it's figure out how those two things come together, because that's where you really do hit something magical. That's the sweet spot. That's what separates a business from a brand. That separates a commodity from a concept, or a concept people can believe in. I always say that don't try to chop off the biggest thing you possibly can. Start simple, but simple is usually creativity and data, where they come together. Find that story, grow that story, and ultimately figure out why the reason you exist connects with why people are coming to you, so that you can work together to grow that.
That is excellent advice. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time today. It has been an absolute pleasure, and I think people have learned a lot about what it takes to connect human interaction with delivery to scale to meet this new world that we live in with social distancing and shelter in place, where we just have to hang tight until this virus runs its course and we can return more to our daily lives. And yet things are going to change as a result. Things will change, hopefully, for the better. And I think we're starting to see that now. So, Chris, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
That's this week's episode of the Collective Wisdom Podcast. Join us each week for another episode on OC Talk Radio, streaming on Thursdays at 3 p.m. And you can download Collective Wisdom wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to visit cacollectivewisdom.com or email us at collectivewisdompodcast@gmail.com to join the conversation. Thank you for listening.